Teachers of Reddit, who's the most clever cheater you ever saw? Story 1. Not a teacher, but a kid in my class plagiarized his entire area research paper, 10-ish pages. He found one online and copied it word for word. He had to submit it to his plagiarizing checking website, so in order to avoid detection, he changed all the letter of the I's to the Russian character I, as it was the most identical, and just looking at them, you can't tell the difference. So he passed the plagiarism test. No one knew until like a year later when he bragged about it. That website we used was notified about this cheat, and they changed the algorithm or whatever, so it wouldn't happen again. Story 2. Not a teacher, but my high school health class had a system for cheating because our coach didn't give a single fuck. My school had mandatory health class. Everyone hated it, and it was basically a pointless say no to drugs class. Our teacher cared just about as much as we did, to the point that he took out his hearing aids anytime he wasn't lecturing, and we all figured out that he couldn't hear high-pitched voices if you sat in the back. So my class developed a system during tests. If Coach C took out his hearing aids, then one of the spotters in the first row would tap a rhythm onto the desk. Then what was basically the council of kids that knew what the fuck they were doing, all sitting in the back row, would figure out the answers, get them to the girl with the highest pitched voice, also in the back row, and she would quietly announce them. I'm all but positive that Coach C knew what we were doing and just didn't care, and that's why he was the best. Story 3. How about this one? My computer science professor had a number of programming assignments for us. We were not supposed to share code. Professor announced that he had a special cheat detector program that he'd run on turn-in assignments. He went on about how it could tell if you just changed variable names or reordered a few statements. My friends and I spent hours trying to think how to defeat the CDP, which meant we had to deduce how it might work, which meant we were thinking about algorithms and data structures on our own time. Professor C, you evil, manipulative, smug bastard, I salute you. Story 4. In calculus class my senior year, we had our midterm coming up, and our teacher had to be away, so the test was administered by a sub. Perfect opportunity. The whole class got together and designed a t-shirt that had all the equations written on the front in a way that looked like it was just some nerd lingo trying to be funny. Think about writing a sentence using math symbols as letters. We all wore the same shirt and told the sub it was because we were all in math club and had a competition that afternoon, and it was our uniform. Teacher got back and had no idea how the class average went from 70s on all of our other tests to upper 90s. Story 5. I wonder if my 10th grade history professor is a Redditor. Well, Mr. Homer, remember how you let us roll the dice the day before a big quiz to determine if we got to use a cheat sheet on the test? Well, the reason the class always let me roll was because I had loaded dice. I would switch out while you weren't looking. Story 6. Not a teacher, but I'm going to tell my story anyways. In 9th grade, we had an English test that no one studied for. The day of, the teacher was sick. She had written instructions on the board. You may not use your phone, neighbor, or book. I erased the word not as a funny, stupid joke, thinking the sub would say, that's not right, and tell us not to use our phone, neighbor, or book. The sub walked through the door, and it was Miss White. So Miss White is a contender for oldest woman to ever live. She is completely clueless. You could tell her that school ended at 10 a.m. today, and she would pack up and go home. She handed out our tests, read the instructions on the board, and said, get to work. No one questioned it. We discussed and Googled every question. It would have been more clever if it was planned, but it worked out well. Story 7. Not a teacher, but I saw another student use it. He engraved the equations into the pencil without breaking through the paint, unless you were close up. You'd never notice anything wrong with it. Apparently, like 6 other YouTubers have mentioned this. As far as I know, this person is not a YouTuber. He's more likely to be in prison. We had really dark brown desks in my school. If you wrote on them in pencil, you could only see it if the light hit the graphite at the right angle, so I would just write Spanish translations on my desk in pencil before a test. Story 8. Not a teacher, but a TA for calculus. I taught a recitation and gave quizzes during it. I normally didn't walk around, but would sit at this elevated desk and sort of watch people. Since calculators weren't even allowed, I wasn't too worried. About the 4th quiz of the semester, I caught a student cheating by having his notes on a small piece of paper and hiding it under his quiz while taking it. What was clever about it was He always sat behind this very overweight girl on quiz days, and by doing so, my view of him and his desk were completely obstructed by her. Mass. Story 9. I proctor a test on weekends. We recently moved the test site to a new location where it's virtually impossible for the people taking it to see each other's papers, but before this, they would double up at long tables and we had to be very vigilant about wandering eyes. At the old site, there was one guy who thought he was fooling me with his quick head turns, his fake stretching, and his big yawns that he used to steal a glance at his deskmate's paper. Normally, I would have shut that down hard, but this time I decided to let it go. Why? Well, this test has two versions. One is the version that you'd send to universities and colleges, and the other is what you would send to a current prospective employer to show your proficiency in this area. These tests are completely 100% different. Not one single question is the same between them. The cheater failed to notice that his deskmate was taking the other version of the test. I wonder if he ever found out why he completely bombed the test, or if he thought the guy he was cheating from was just really dumb. When I was in junior history, there was this group of 4 bros that sat in the back and were, let's just say, not the most stellar of students. Our teacher suspected them of cheating, so we made 4 different versions of the test. All 4 of them had the same answers. Our teacher ratted them out to the entire class, lol. Story 10. Don't think it would be very clever if the teachers were aware of it. As a former high school student, I'll share my clever ways of cheating. We were required to take 4 state tests a year. All these tests were just reprints of actual tests from a few years ago. I knew the answer key would be online, but all I had to do was find out which year it was, so we had 2 days to complete the test in class. Day 1, math, science, English, and history. Teacher handed out the test and literally on the front page was the year the test took place. I went through each test and made mental notes of the questions and order they were in just to confirm nothing changed on the answer key. So I get home and Google each test and bam, each answer key is there. Now, in all my classes except for one, I was right next to the teacher, so I had to conjure up a sneaky way to copy down the right answers. So, what I did was, I went to Walmart and picked up brand new wooden pencils and colored erasers. I color-coded each pencil with a different color to differentiate them. On the answer key, it was A, B, C, D. So, with a razor blade, I engraved different marks for each key. Example, A equals slash, B equals I, C equals dash, D equals backslash. There was about 100 questions, and I managed to fit all the answers on 2 sides of the pencil, so if the teacher got up to walk around, all I had to do was rotate the pencil away from him or her. Every 10 questions, I would engrave a circle so that if I ever lost count, I could count by tens. Day 2. All I had to do was circle the correct answer, and obviously I purposely missed at least 4. Totally worked because this was a major grade, and I barely passed math because of this method. I would like to add, I could have easily studied and passed, but me being the rebel teenager that I was, wanted to show no mercy. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch our YouTube video. If you find our content helpful and enjoyable, please click the subscribe button to stay updated on any new videos we share in the future. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our next upcoming videos.